Do you think at this stage, as millions of voters have already cast their ballots, do you think we will get an accurate picture of the results on election night?
Election night, I wouldn't think so. I think that those who have got a lot more expertise than I are warning that it's going to be a ways till we find out what happened. And that's going to be a very stressful time. Now, I think all we can really hope for is that a victory for Biden is both that Biden does win, that he's recognized to have won, and that he has a sufficiently large margin in a sufficient number of states that it's going to be really hard for the Republican machine to cast a lot of doubt upon it. I think it's just not plausible that Trump is going to win a significant victory. I think it's not very likely he's going to win, but it's certainly not plausible that he's going to win a victory to a magnitude which is going to clearly establish that he won. Whereas it is possible that that could be true for Biden and for Democrats in a lot of races, and I think we just have to hope that that's how things come about. Obviously, that's how what Democrats should hope for. But even independents should hope that there is sufficiently clear resolution that we are not confronted with the prospect of armed militias or armed gangs in the streets seeking to overturn the election, which I think we have to view as a real possibility.
And do you think Americans in general will accept either scenario as legitimate, especially with the concerns that you have mentioned? And do you think there could be any measures taken by officials to ensure election security and to give the public more confidence?
Well, yeah, sure. In theory. I mean, the problem is that one of our two major parties is not being run by grown-ups anymore. I mean, let's be quite frank and call a fig a fig. We do not have a serious, mature, responsible Republican Party in our nation today. It is our obligation as Americans to accept and respect that outcome. So I don't think that there are leaders who the Republican base are looking to and whom they respect who can carry that message. And if there are a few of them who could carry that message to their base, they don't seem to be interested in doing so. So I wish I could tell you a happy and encouraging story, but I think we really have to look up honestly to the fact that we're in a really dire situation. We are not governed by two serious parties anymore.
In the case of either scenario on election night, do you think there will be the possibility of contestation? And if so, what degree do you think, what extent?
Well, it all depends on just what the numbers are showing. We really should be hoping for a very solid, incontestable victory. And especially, I can't emphasize this strongly enough, if some Republican office holders who still have credibility with the right-wing base finally overcome their extreme partisanship to do the right thing for this nation and to speak up and to assure this country and to assure their constituents that it is a true and honest election and that the results are true and fair. If the Republicans want to play the fake news card, which they like to play over and over, then we're going to be in much greater danger than if some of them grow up.
Do you think a Biden administration, if that's what we end up having, would increase the number of justices on the court, and should he? And what are the implications of that?
It's a tough question. Would he? He's an institutionalist. So I think that his instincts are going to be saying, don't add justices. And I think that that's the greater likelihood. I think that's unfortunate, frankly. I am a very, very late comer to the idea of adding to the court. It's crazy, the Republican stranglehold that has existed for decades in the judiciary. This is not a right country. It's a centrist country, and more of the citizenry votes Democratic than Republican. But for a variety of reasons having to do with different interests and commitments of Republican versus Democratic presidents, for reasons having to do with the structural gerrymander that is the Senate, and for other reasons as well, we have a quite conservative judiciary which doesn't fit the electorate. Furthermore, the way we got to this 6-3 Republican majority, assuming that Judge Barrett is confirmed, is an outrage. It's an outrage. That Merrick Garland wasn't giving a hearing, and then that Justice Ginsburg dies and the Republicans push through a quick vote on Judge Barrett is hypocritical is an understatement here. It's an outrageous lack of candor, honesty, decency, and living up to one's word. So I don't think that a Biden administration should tolerate it. I don't think this country should tolerate it. But will it? Probably yes.
So speaking of Judge Barrett, it's well known that she has strong belief in originalism. How do you think her belief will impact the nomination or the court as a whole in the long term in the case that she is confirmed?
She will be a very reliable, very conservative voice. That's going to have implications for abortion rights, of course, for the Affordable Care Act, possibly, but for 1,001 things, for issues related to the balance between state and national power. The pandemic and global warming are two things that should make any sensible person, especially young people who are looking at a worrisome future, and a future in which sensible regulation at a national level is going to be critical. And the conservative majority on the Supreme Court is very hostile to national power. What else are big issues facing us? Well, issues related to racial justice, for example. There is a strong sentiment, a dominant sentiment among judicial conservatives that the original meaning of the 14th Amendment and the Equal Protection Clause was colorblindness. This is nonsense. It's nonsense, but that's their view. It's crazy. It's crazy that as we try to speak to racial injustice in this country, well-meaning people are going to be, and well-meaning governments are going to be substantially hampered in their ability to address the problems, particularly of Black Americans, because of this Nazi view of historical colorblindness. She's going to be a vote likely against actions that are designed to bring about greater racial justice. So on issue after issue that splits the country on political bases, one could expect that a very strong conservative person on the court, added to an already very active conservative majority, is going to have consequences. If you care about racial justice, if you care about climate change, if you care about science-based approaches to the problems that face this country, then you should really be concerned about a 6-3 Republican majority on this Supreme Court. You should be really concerned.
And speaking to the importance of the federal level of power, we already have a Republican-controlled Senate majority as well. Do you think the Supreme Court has been irredeemably politicized in any way, or do you have any concerns as a legal professional about this leaning?
Yeah, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the legitimacy of the court. It cannot be upon us to shut up and play nice to preserve the legitimacy of the court. It's gotta be at some point on the Republicans to do the right thing. There's a stench that is increasingly attaching to the court. And they've got to cleanse themselves of that stench. And it's not for others of us to clean them up or to pretend that they don't stink when they do. We have a principle of popular sovereignty that has underwritten our nation's history. And I think it's part of that principle that people should be enabled to vote free of unnecessary obstacles. Of course, one of our parties doesn't believe in that, and one of our parties doesn't believe in that for a very good reason, because the demographic changes that have occurred and are occurring in this nation threaten to relegate that party to the dustbin of history. Republicans recognize that if they play fair, demographic changes will basically ruin them or consign them to the minority status at the national level. Will they be a majority party in many states? Absolutely. But given changes in demographics, they would be the minority party at the national level if they play fair. Well, they're not going to smile and accept that outcome. So they are going to use all of the levers available to them to make it hard for the majority in this country to see its wishes materialize in the persons who hold office and the policies that they adopt. I do think we should be very concerned about what the future will hold. I know I've said that a lot. I'm sort of a broken record on this. But I think that we have a wounded party, a party that knows that if it plays by the regular rules of the game, it doesn't have a good chance of winning. And a party in that condition is a dangerous party. Be active. Be active and vote, certainly. Anyone who's watching this, vote. Take your responsibilities seriously. And don't kid yourself that it doesn't matter who wins. It's going to matter a whole lot to lots of things that people care about. Who's in office, who has the power to make law, who has the power to appoint the judges in our system. Engage in good practices of social distancing, wear your masks. Young people, get out and vote.